Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Season 2, Episode 13 of the Forge Podcast, brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer, and we've got a lot to dive into. The Barons went to Columbus for the first time, taking on the Clingstones this past week, and the Stallions wound up hosting the Houston Roughnecks, and both of them had some transactions as well. But I want to thank you guys for watching, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, and if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, or wherever you're finding this. Thank you for your support. Thank you always for your all of the engagement on the posts and all the shares. We see that and we appreciate that. It's been a crazy past few months for us here, but we're trying to bring you as much content as possible as it is concerned with Birmingham pro sports. But with that, we also have to thank Blue Spring Living Water. Guys, it's getting hotter out there. I've got a lot of sunburn. You probably can't see it on my head right now, but it's getting hot. Make sure you're staying out there if you're outside, or even if you're inside. Make sure you're staying hydrated with the naturally minerally rich water from Blue Spring Living Water. It's bottled right at the source, right down the road in Blount County, Alabama. So make sure you take a step toward a healthier life, because it's no risk of contamination due to transportation or anything like that, because it is bottled right at the source. But you can find it at your local grocer or get it delivered right to your home or office. Go to bluespringlivingwater.com for more information. And with that, this is Season 2, Episode 13 of the Forge Podcast. We're going to start things off with the Birmingham Stallions, who wound up hosting the Roughnecks this past week. But before that, they had a few transactions. On Monday, they wound up waiving Jalen Morton. So best of luck to him. But they signed also outside linebacker Max Roberts to replace Ronnie Perkins. And then yesterday we found out that they wound up waiving wide receiver Austin Watkins. And then they reactivated Alex Magoo. So looks like we're getting ready to get Magoo back. Not sure who's going to probably Magoo, but we'll have to see who starts this next week. We do know that Case Kukas did not practice today. So we'll have to see what goes on, or yesterday, and we'll have to find out who is going to be playing starting out this week. And it looks like they're actually going to keep Peasley on the roster for now. And they've got him on the practice updates as well. Then we did play host to Houston on Sunday. The Roughnecks got the ball to start the game. Jalen McClendon did come out slinging it really well. The Stallions did not give up the run, but they did get a lot over the top, moving the ball down the field. They did get a touchdown with 9:08 left to play in the opening quarter. eating up a lot of clock there. But Birmingham did get the ball back on the ensuing kickoff. They were able to move the ball primarily with Ricky, but they did. Case did sprinkle in some passes to Dion before a handoff to CJ to run in for the touchdown. They did not get the 2-point conversion, but on the next drive, they went 3rd and 6. On the next drive, McClendon did send a pass to Quandre White for a 52-yard touchdown pass. But then on the next drive, on the 3rd and 6, Case did throw a pick that was returned for a pick 6, unfortunately. So Houston running up the score quickly there, 18-6. And then the Stallions did get a couple of first downs on the ensuing drive before going 3 and out and having to punt. And McClendon did start slinging it again, moving the ball down the field, and scored another touchdown. And they succeeded on the 1-point conversion after a defensive pass interference on the Stallions, moved it to the 1. Just really killing the Stallions there. The Stallions wound up going 3 and out again, but the Stallions defense would wind up holding the Roughnecks to a 3 and out themselves. And then Case was able to move the ball down the field in the final minutes of the first half, and he finally hit Jace for a touchdown with about 7 seconds left to play in the half. Then coming out of the half, the Stallions wound up moving the ball much better, but they wound up stalling out just outside the red zone, setting Stallions defense did hold the Roughnecks to another 3 and out, and Case was able to move the ball down the field before going 3 and out inside the 5 and setting Mevis back out for another chip shot field goal. The Roughnecks did go 3 and out yet again. The defense really clicking, firing on all cylinders there. And they wound up pinning the Stallions inside their own 10-yard line, but they were able to get the ball out of the way of danger there and get it to the Houston 39 before Case was injured, sending out Jamar Smith, and he came out to a massive round of applause and cheers. Just insane, the atmosphere. That really kind of twisted the dynamic of that game. But he wound up throwing a single incompletion before Mevis kicked another field goal. This time it was a 52-yarder, and that really is what gave him the Player of the Week honors this past week. So heads up, really great work for Harrison Mevis there, the thicker kicker. But the Stallions defense did hold the Houston to another 3 and out. And then with Jamar back behind center, the Stallions really looked good offensively, moving the ball before setting Jamar for the go-ahead touchdown, letting him run it in there right at the 2-minute warning. The 2-point conversion failed, but the Roughnecks were charged with an unnecessary roughness after the penalty. It was a dead ball foul, so that was going to be added to the kickoff yardage, which wound up being fumbled by Houston, recovered by Trey Norwood, setting up the Stallions 1st and goal at the 2-yard line. Ricky was able to get the ball across the goal line on the next drive. On that, but then on the next drive, the Roughnecks wound up going fumbling on 4th down after going for it, giving the Stallions the ball inside the red zone with about a minute to play. This set Jamar up for a victory formation to close out the game. Such a great comeback for the Stallions. Just insane to see how the dynamic changed once Jamar got in there. It really looked like we were the Stallions of like the USFL era. Um, Nothing, no offense to the UFL, um, but it's just the passion and the way that they played in the USFL with uh, Alex and Jamar. It just completely different from what we saw last year in the UFL. It was just a different dynamic. But my thoughts for this one, it took a while for the defense to get back going, but they cleaned up penalty wise for the most part. But hopefully, we're starting to get some guys back from injury. But on post game, we talked to Jamar. We actually asked him about the chemistry with these guys, and this is what he had to say.
Most definitely. The guys were very supportive behind me the whole way. Just patting no back or just say good job, like, let's go. We believe in you, and that's what we need. That's what we have with the Stallions. We try to stay a brotherhood. I know we had it in college, and it's kind of translating to here right now. It's been 4 years for us, a lot of us guys, and just try to do the best we can for each other. You play for the guy on the right or left, but you want to go out there and put the best product on the field.
But so great to hear that from him because it really did. You could really sense the change in the dynamic there. But as far as the attendance, it was not great. It was only 4,744 due to the early game on Sunday and Mother's Day being as well. But then with the chance of rain on top of all of that, it was just so rough that, we didn't have much of any, too many people out there. All things considered, it was for all of those factors being in play, um, that was a pretty good number. But as far as the viewership on television, it was the second highest viewed game of the season, averaging about 956,000 views, and then it peaked at 1.27 million views. So, like I said, it was the second highest viewed game of the season, and then they're getting set up to head back to the um, Dome at America Center, where they are going to take on the St. Louis Battlehawks, where they completed the three-peat just under a year ago. Switching things over to the Birmingham Barons, who had a few transactions this past week as well. On Wednesday, we found out they reactivated Michael Turner, the catcher there. And then on Tuesday, we found out that they wound up Eric Adler was returned from AAA Charlotte, and that Weston Eberle, the catcher there, went back down to High A Winston-Salem. They did take the road trip to Columbus for the first time. Now the Clingstones are there, which formerly were the Mississippi Braves. On Tuesday, we saw things get started with Adam Hackenberg going in the top of the third with a grounder to left field, bringing in DJ Gladney to open up the scoring. The Clingstones wound up answering back in the bottom of the inning with a run of their own. And then in the top of the fourth, Ryan Galaney hit a solo shot to retake the lead for the Barons. The Clingstones wound up answering back again in the bottom side of the inning with a solo shot of their own, and they wound up taking the lead off of a deflected ball, letting one of their guys score there in the bottom of the inning as well. Varys was able to tie things up in the top of the sixth, singling to bring in Bergoya. But then they wound up retaking the lead in the bottom of the sixth with another solo homer, which would be the game-winning run for them. Totals for this game were the Clingstones with the 4 runs off 7 hits. There were no errors, and they wound up stranding 6. The Barons had the 3 runs off of 7 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 4. On Wednesday, Columbus got things going with a run in the first and the third, and 3 in the second, making it a 4-0 lead early for the Clingstones. But in the bottom of the fourth, the Barons wound up tying things up with Turner singling to bring in Galaney, Gladney singling to bring in Varys, Turner coming in off of a Mario fly ball to left field, and then Gladney coming in off of a Hackenberg single. And then the Clingstones wound up breaking the tie in the third with 3 in the bottom of the fourth, and then 3 more in the fifth. And then in the top of the seventh, DJ hit a solo shot. Galaney wound up singling, bringing in Mario, and then Bergoya came in off of a Connor single. The Clingstones wound up closing it out in the seventh, scoring 3 more to put the game away. Totals for that game were Columbus with the 13 runs off of 13 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 10. Barons had 7 runs off of 10 hits. There was 1 error, and they wound up stranding 3. Though on Thursday, after 6.5 scoreless innings, the Clingstones wound up scoring the game's only runs in the bottom of the 7th, shutting the Barons out 2-0. Totals for this game, just Columbus with the 2 runs off of 4 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 2. The Barons had no runs off of 7 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 5. On Friday, Columbus got things going early with 2 in the top of the first, and then Gonzo wound up cutting the lead in half with a sac fly to bring in Connor. And then in the 7th, Riku Nishida wound up tying things up to bring in, singling to bring in Burke. But then the Clingstones wound up closing it out, scoring twice more in the 8th to win it again there. The totals for this game were Columbus with the 4 runs off of 6 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 6. The Barons had the 2 runs off of 9 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 9. On Saturday, Turner got things going in the first with a sac fly to center to bring in Varys. Then in the 6th, Galaney wound up hitting a 3-run homer to bring in Bergoya and Varys. And then the Clingstones wound up hitting a solo shot in the 7th to bring in their only run of the game. But it wasn't enough, as the Barons wound up winning it 4-1. The week's only win for the Barons there. The totals are Columbus with the 1 run off of 5 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 6. The Barons had the 4 runs off of 7 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 5. And we found out there was a bunch of rain in the area, of course, with it being further south there in Columbus, Georgia. They wound up postponing the game because the weather was actually south of where we were, so it'd be hitting them. So they wound up getting a rain postponement there. But as far as the standings, Birmingham and Knoxville are tied for first in the North for the first half. And then Chattanooga is half a game behind. And Rocket City is sitting at 4th in the Southern League North, with being 6 games behind there. But we wound up, it's just a great, even despite the rough weekend we had, our week we had with the Clingstones, we are still holding on to first place, being tied there. So good looking out for the Birmingham Barons. But in closing, just a great week so far. We came out with a comeback win for the Stallions. They are heading up to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks, and then the Barons are back home. The Legion have a game tonight and on Sunday. We were going to try to get out there Sunday, but that's about all we got for this week. I hope you guys have a great night.